starting with Saptarishi, he is the product designer at Swiggy, and yes, we all love ordering food over Swiggy. So it's an amazing experience. Thank you for all the experience that Swiggy gave us and all the services they have given us. So starting with Saptarishi, I would like to ask you how was your journey so far, and how is this product designing thing working for you?
Okay, so design had been amazing for me. Like many of you know that I'm not from a design background, and when I say that I haven't studied design, is what I mean. I'm an engineer. I'm an electrical engineer, and my first job was a corporate MBA sort of job. And after that is right after that job is when I felt that I should get into design, because that had always been my hobby, my passion. And I just jumped into it, to be honest. And this was back in 2015. That's when I started design without a proper portfolio, like the way you would want to see today, without a proper degree in design. I just jumped into it, and I'm really happy that my peers, my friends, people in the, and of course the internet, helped me to shape what I am today. And I'm glad. And when you shared this word, that this is the topic that we're going to talk about today, I first felt, okay, what is this? It's a tough topic. Sounds like I've never heard. But then when I looked up the meaning, felt like, wow, this has happened in my life. This has happened in everybody's life, right? Let's do it.
So my question was that while working in this corporate environment and still holding on to Meraki or still holding on to your essence, like the way you work or something that is of your very own. So how are you handling all
this
these
is a question
things?
I get asked very often, like right from my parents. We all know, right, how Indian parents are. They, first of all, when you're in school and college, they're like, you're not studying, you're not eating, you're not doing things well. And now after a few years, they reach a stage when you're like, you're working too much. Go down, eat something, take some rest, watch some TV. So you see how the tables turn. Yeah, that has been happening to me. So if you see as a list things that I'm doing, yes, it's a big list. I'm doing a lot of things. I have a very taxing day job. That is the position that I hold with Swiggy. I'm a product design manager there. It needs a lot of accountability and a lot of mental pressure that falls on me. And along with that, also I'm doing many other things, like I'm making videos on YouTube, or I'm posting stuff on Dribble, or I'm writing something on Medium, or I'm speaking to folks every day. That's the bit of mentorship, my giving back to the community that I do, and a host other things. So all these things I've spoken about, that might seem like work, but the funny thing here is I enjoy doing it. I totally love doing it, and hence I do not mind even if I'm spending majority of my time doing all these things that I have just spoken about. That doesn't tire me. So I'm fine with closing my Swiggy's design file and then immediately switching to a video tool where I'm shooting something, or I'm recording my audio, or I'm getting on a call with a newbie designer who wants to get his or her portfolio reviewed. It might sound like a lot of things on my calendar, but at the end of the day, it gives me the pleasure, me the satisfaction that I always seek for. And I think that's what Meraki is. So the fact that I love it so much, I never feel that I'm doing any work. I've recently also come across a Japanese word. It's called ikigai. Ikigai is nothing but a state, and it is said that ikigai is a state where you be at when you are doing what you love, what the world wants, and for what you're also getting paid for. I would like to believe I have hit my ikigai. I love doing what I do, and the world needs it, and it's paying my bills. It's wonderful, isn't it? So even though my friends, my parents say that take a break, watch a movie, or go sleep for some time, but I'm actually having fun. I don't need to watch a movie to derive that fun. So it's
So my question to all the speakers, it's a general question, any one of you can answer it. So for an example, we being the lame users, we don't know how to place even a simple box. While you people are designing and you have to creatively see whether it's 360 degree, it's fine or not. So how do you think these small elements change the design perspective or the whole design or the layout and ultimately the user experience?
Like, could you like put a little more context into it? Like, what kind? Like, if you
Okay,
could
so
repeat it a bit.
yeah. So in simple terms, if we see, we use so many apps these days. So just a scroll button or just a back and next button. So how these things, the placement of these things work for user experience. Like if you are placing it on the bottom of the mobile phone, if it is an app for mobile phone, if you put it on bottom or if you put it on top, so how much difference will it make?
Am I audible now?
Yes, Sapnesh.
Finally, finally.
Finally, you're audible.
Okay, okay. Now, I think you folks have covered almost everything, and I agree with each and everything that you have said about it. And yeah, Nivedita, I think any design decision that we take it for the user. But that doesn't mean that we make our user as designers, you know. So there are certain decisions that we as designers will have to take for the users, and we cannot rely on the user to do the right thing for themselves every single time. Like, we shouldn't expect them to, because that's not what they are there for. We are qualified to do that. So based on that, there could be very small things that we do, and that might bring massive differences. Like, one simple thing I can tell you right now, if you are a user of Swiggy, you would have seen when you scroll, there's a discount wheel that spins, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, some of you might have seen it. So when you page, a discount will spin. Of course, I personally wasn't involved in making that because it was made even before I joined. That's a very small thing. A layman might not even know that, what value is this spinning going to bring? But you won't be surprised how well it worked out for us. Of course, I'm not allowed to share numbers, but I think a smile on my face kind of says it, right? So, one small thing, no one would have ever thought this is going to bring change. It did. Design is like that. So, you never know what your users would end up liking, how a small thing is going to play with the minds of the user. So, yeah, that's what makes design incredible.
So there is a question from the audience. So they
Mhm.
want to know how much is this social validation thing important for a design, or the social acceptance of a design by the people.
Anyone wants to take it? Maybe I can cite one small example for you guys. So today in this panel, we four have been invited. Why do you think that happened? Are we four the best in India? Not really. I'm sure there are many other people who are better than us. But we are invited because maybe you know us. Maybe we have done something in social media and you might have seen some validation of people liking or talking about us. That's about it, right?
Yeah.
There could be people much better than us sitting quietly in their room and doing amazing work. But just because no one has validated them, you do not know about them, and hence they're not a part of this panel. So, yes, social proofing is extremely important, but it always needs to be backed up with value, right? It's not enough that I'm being validated socially. But at the end of the day, if I don't add value, all those validation are not going to work on my favor for a long time.
Correct.
So my question is, like, what do you think can be, the improvements in the designing field, where all these new upcoming designers, wherever they are learning or something, so where can they improve themselves?
I don't have anything extra to add here. Yeah, thanks for calling it out, Nitish. So I agree with all the things that you have said. So one thing which I see most of the newbie designers mistakes which they make, because like I said, I interact with them on a daily basis. I get on calls. So one common mistake which I see is they do a lot of things without understanding the purpose behind that. That is, I think, one single big mistake which most of them make. You know, to give you an example, I will be fine if you do not show me a wireframe. But if you show me a wireframe and you cannot justify why you have made it, that's going to be worse for you. So I see a lot of people doing those kind of mistakes. If they've written a portfolio. Okay, I have read this, like, the define and the design process that you see on Google Images. They would write all of them. But when I connect and ask questions as to, okay, what did you do in this define phase? What were your insights out of it? They wouldn't have answers. So that's because they haven't understood really what happens there, and they have simply done it, right? I would say very fancy wireframes with drop shadow gradients and all. It's like, what's the purpose behind it? What did you gain out of it? They won't have an answer. Sab karte hai to, I just did it. That's not an answer. That's going to bring you negative. Better would be you just don't put wireframes at all if you don't have the reason why you have done it. And if you don't understand it, don't have it. More often than not, you will find yourself that if you logically think, what you end up doing is right. But if you force fit your idea into somebody else's ideologies, which are the written rules, you will make mistakes. Like, I'm a self-taught designer. I've never, this double diamond and all, I do not know at all, right? I discover them over time. And when I discover, I feel that, oh, this is called double diamond. I've been doing it all my life. I just didn't know the name. My common sense told me that I should do it, right? So rely on your common sense instead of somebody else's common sense. So that would be one thing that I would want to